What I wanted to talk about today is this thing, the comparison effect. And the comparison effect is something so crazy. I mean, this is something that defeats more people today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the defeating effect of this comparison effect. Now, if you jumped on here, put something in the chat bar, maybe try to share this video or tag someone else in it so they can come and watch it together. Okay. So if you look at the comparison effect, we live in this world of you and everything else, right? And then there's pretty much three different framings of you and everybody else. The first framing is the past framing of you. And that started out as soon as you knew enough that actually you were trained to care about something. Now, hey, what's up, Mike? Let me talk about training to care. So when you were a kid, you ran around naked, maybe in your underwear, in the backyard. You don't care about anything. And then you're trained by your parents, your mom, your dad, whoever, like that's not appropriate. And you shouldn't act that way. And you shouldn't talk back that way. And so now you're trained, and that becomes your comparison of the past. Now, there's kind of trained comparisons, and then there's these lesson comparisons. The lesson comparison is you're in school as a kid and you piss yourself. And all of a sudden, Billy never has that problem, but you have that problem. So now I have a comparison of good and bad. Billy's amazing. I'm not. So this is the first comparison where we start learning how we are constantly trying to regulate our behaviors based on how the rest of the world is being, and then how we think we should be. And that makes us either feel worthy or deflated. Okay, so that's the past. Now, the past has already stacked up these lessons of comparison. It's already taught you how to compare yourself to other things, places, and times and stuff. So now let's go for the present. The present comparison effect here is that today, whatever age you're at, you're starting to see yourself and you're comparing yourself to people on one of the biggest things is probably social media. What's up, Brian? How you doing? And on social media, you see one person has fancy plane, fancy cars, fancy life, and you have a comparison based on, and you start to judge yourself. And when you look and you start putting that other person on a pedestal and you start saying, oh man, I wish I had that. I should have that. Why don't I have that? Then what happens is you start to see not the gifts of them, you see the flaws in you. And this is where the big devastating effects happen to you, is that you don't see, like when I would meet friends, I've had a lot of friends over the years, and a lot of them had very successful lives, things they did. And every time they came up to me and said, hey, I just grew my business, or I just bought this thing, or I bought this house, or started this thing, I was like, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Now, but that's from the heart. A lot of the other world looks at it and goes, oh, you're lucky. Why not me? So then what happens is you walk away from that conversation and you start looking at your flaws. I never compared myself to anyone. Well, then you're ahead of the game, Mike. You're ahead of the game, right? So when people start to see their flaws more than they see their self-worth and what they actually are, then what happens is life starts to get a little depressing, right? Because you sit there and you see one person next to a jet and you're thinking, I can't afford my car bill. Now, the only comparison that should happen is the comparison of where you are today compared to where you wanted to be today. Now, a lot of people in the world aren't even spending enough time to think about that, right? Like they might think about their business stuff, but let's talk about life stuff. Like if you look at today and say, okay, where am I today? I'll talk to the men as a dad. Like where am I as a dad? Am I supportive? Am I caring? Am I loving? What am I as a dad? And then I want to compare it to how am I tomorrow as a dad? And then the next day as a dad. So what happens is people try to create this comparison to others instead of the comparison of where they want to go. Now we have the future comparison. The future comparison will cause all the major flaws in you because what happens is you start not to believe you could get anywhere in the future. You don't believe you could achieve that. You only believe they can achieve that. Everyone else can achieve that. So then the flaw becomes I start to justify why they could win. Hey, mom, everybody type in the chat bar. Hey, mom. So now what happens is you start to look at what they're going to have in the future, and you start telling yourself, I must have a lot of flaws. I can't have that in the future. It's not possible for me. I'm too old, too young. It's not the right time. And you start to now look at yourself as somebody who's in a constant struggle that has no possibility to win. But see, on the flip side, there's somebody that doesn't know any different and they don't see the flaws. And when they look at themselves, at what they have, they go, and this one always, I'm going to give you something that always stings for me. Always stings. Every time I ever heard it, it stung. And then you guys tell me if this stings. Okay. One of my mentors a long time ago, I'm sure I was whining like a bitch or something about something, like complaining about all these things. And there's not enough people and not enough this, and I can't buy this, and I don't have fancy this, and whatever. I was probably bitching about something. And he turned around and said, okay, you deserve exactly where you're at. And I was like, ego steps up, chest goes up, chin goes back, fists come out like, what are you talking about? I deserve where I'm at. I don't deserve to struggle. I don't deserve to have a hard time. I don't deserve this that I'm dealing with. I don't deserve this lawsuit. I don't deserve this stuff. And okay, he said, whatever. You deserve exactly where you're at. I started to think, well, wait a minute. What if that is true? What if what I have is exactly where I should be? Now, see, if you could accept that, where I'm at is where I should be. I have problems with bills. I'm in debt. My health's not where it is. Okay, this is where it should be. Where do I want to be tomorrow? That's the only framing that has to happen next is where do I want to be? And instead of looking at it and seeing all the flaws of the past, which everything, so I'm talking to you guys, whatever. Okay, 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes I'm talking. Okay, all of those 9 minutes are the past already. So do you realize when you're referencing a problem, you're already referencing a past moment in time? Now you get to say to yourself, okay, well, wait a second. What if I started to not see my flaws? If I started to not see my problems? If I looked in the mirror in the morning and said, okay, so this is gray, hair's looking a little wild, maybe I got some wrinkles or something here. Okay, that's what it is. No emotion attached to it. It is what it is right now. Now, the fact that I want to change it, that's fine. Just make a new decision. See, I think what happens is every time you start to see your flaws more than you see the opportunity, you're frozen and get stuck instead of being able to move forward. Now, I don't want to make it sound easy, but I think it can be easy and it can be hard, right? Based on whatever you choose to do with it. Now, I know somebody listening here, it's probably needs to hear this message right now. And maybe it's not you, and maybe it's somebody else, and maybe you can share it with them. But when I walk through the life, and I mean, right now, I was talking about it, I'm doing a training right now, and I was thinking of all the things I've been doing for over 3 decades, right? I've been working with mindset stuff over 3 decades. I've been building businesses over 3 decades. I've been with my beautiful wife over 3 decades. I was thinking, I've been in martial arts over 3 decades. And when I start to look at all these things over all these decades, I go back and say the same thing that people were seeing flaws in themselves in the dojo is the same things that people see the flaws in their life today. Back then, maybe they were a son or daughter. Today, they're a mom or a dad. Tomorrow, they're a grandfather or grandmother. And just imagine for a moment how painful it could feel over time. I have empathy for this of somebody that's looking at themselves and seeing themselves less than perfect. Less than perfect. Now you might go, well, nothing's perfect. You're perfect right now because guess what? You are what you are, you have what you have. And if you look at something in the sense of perfection, it means the accepting that it is beautifully exactly the way it is, with no comparison to anything else. To say it's imperfect and nothing perfect already says to yourself, there's a constant state of comparison that's happening. And if there's a state of comparison and you live within the comparison, you're living within the pain of the comparison. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to shame myself because I see this flaw and I shame the flaw. And now you start to, live in this sense of a painful environment, painful thinking. So what about if we just did this as an action item? And I wonder if you would do it. This one might be easier said than done. What if you kind of like started with yourself? And tomorrow morning or tomorrow night, no matter where you're at in the world, when it's time for either bed or you wake up in the morning and you're getting ready to go in the shower, I would imagine most of you are probably not wearing clothes in the shower. What about if you just take a look at yourself in the mirror? Just the way you are right now. And instead of looking for the flaw and the imperfection, what about if you just said to yourself, there you are. That's what you have right now. I love what I have right now. Loving what you have right now doesn't mean that you can't make an improvement or an enhancement or a change or an adjustment if that's what you're going to love the next day. It doesn't mean you're stopping progress. It just means you're removing the internal burden that you're putting on yourself. How much internal burden and baggage are you carrying when you feel like this? Tell me in the chat bar. Be transparent. I mean, when you think thoughts that you are lesser than what you are, how does it feel? How do you walk through life with that? Do you walk with a pep in your steps, lots of energy? Or are you sluggish and you're looking down wondering, okay, so this is where I am. I thought I'd be further. I thought I'd have more. I thought a lot of people have this, remove the negativity. Yeah, it's like, Brian, it's like not remove the negativity, it's neutralize it to see that exactly what it is. There's no upsides and no downsides. It's exactly the way it is. It's like what this is right now is exactly what it is in this moment. So why shame it? Right? Why argue with it? Why hate it? Why look at it in any other way than a way that will help you move forward to where you want to go faster? Right? Otherwise, it slows you down. It pulls you back. It keeps you from where you want to go. And then you live in this state. Like I said in the beginning, you live in this state of comparison. So what do I want you to do? Look in the mirror. And second thing is, start understanding when you're comparing yourself. You got to get mindful. You got to kind of check yourself. And it's easy today. As soon as you're done watching this video, just scroll through Facebook. You're going to see something. Could be one of those TikTok videos and look at it and just ask yourself, are you thinking any thought about you and what you see? Are you seeing anything? Like, are you looking and going, that person has those expensive sneakers. Should I have those? Why don't I have those sneakers? And then you get to go to yourself, well, hang on a minute here. Hey, congratulations, you got the sneakers. I don't have them. No shame, no guilt, right? No flaws. You're just like, I don't. So the great thing about social media today is it's given you a platform to not only not look at the comparisons, it's given you a platform for you to start understanding you. The deeper you go on the inside, the more you're going to grow on the outside from understanding this concept of comparison effect. Now, what happens is your children are suffering with it today. Maybe not all of them, but a bunch of them. They're going to that college. I'm not going to that college. They're smarter. I'm not. Is that true? Is that true that somebody that goes to Harvard is so much smarter and going to gain so much more life than somebody who's an electrician in vocational school? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. What I do know is this. When you get rid of this comparison effect and you start to look at yourself and you start saying, not seeing the flaws, and you see your greatness, everything starts to move quicker for you. Everything starts to expand. Everything starts to grow. You don't look at everyone else as they are better than you. You look at yourself, and that's all you're thinking about. That's all you're thinking about. Imagine how changing this is for you to live this way and model this for your children. The fact of loving the moment now. I hope you guys will really embrace this and consider bringing it into your life, or at least try it on and send me a Facebook message and be like, I looked in the mirror, F you, or I looked in the mirror and finally seen myself there, the reflection of me. When you could see the reflection of your best self, boom, life is incredible. Okay, that's what I got for you tonight.